Jesus was a rock star.
So just like text to give, it just saves a little bit because some of us, you give a considerable amount of money, and all of a sudden 3% adds up to being significant amount. So you don't have to do it, but you can do that if you want to. And literally just did it myself. I don't think they offered it before, but they just started offering it, the service that we use. And so if you want to do that, Lord bless you. But today in Acts, we reread in Acts 20:35, it says, "You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than receive." And I have to tell you that you guys are good at this. I had my meeting 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago at with my guys. And one of the things that I show them is our finances. And they looked at our finances and they said, "Holy cow, Scott, your people really know how to give." And I said, "That's why we're still here." So I just want to tell you, kudos, because, and Winston, he said, normally a church your side, we would expect about a fifth of this amount. And, and I said, yeah, we have got some wonderful, beautiful, faithful people. So you guys, just so you know, you look around the room, there's a whole bunch of you that know how to give. That see that as just being obedient to God and making it and just saying yes, Lord, to that. Because not only the movie theater costs, I forget exactly, but it's that's about $1,500 a month or something like that. We have about $1,000. A month to go out to different missionaries, and Mike Sanyu, who's here last week, he is one of them. Been supporting Mike for a long time, but he just finally got him here now. Teen Challenge, we support jail chaplains, just shy of $1,000 a month. And so you guys are awesome. I just want to tell you, and I was proud of you. When Winston said, "Whoa, you guys have really good cash flow for this size of a church," and I said, "You know what? We got some beautiful people that just believe God." Because I don't. If you read the books on how to raise your finances for churches, you see a lot of things like some churches write you a thank you note every week and that kind of thing. And I actually don't look at your find what you give very often. Only a couple of situations where I would look at how much you give. Maybe part of it is because I want to be very careful. The Apostle Paul had harsh words for people that treated people different based on the amount they give. And so but you guys are so good. And I love you for it. And it's why Rock Church is still here. For real. And I've said this to you before. I've said this every year since we've been doing this, so this will sound familiar to you. But my money pledge that I have to you. Number one, I will not lead where I won't go. One time I was close to a church that was struggling financially, and people weren't wanting to give, and the pastor, he got really uncomfortable when it was time to talk about money. And I always thought, well, you know what? It's in the Bible. Why? Why are you so uncomfortable talking about money? Well, came to find out, his whole family, they weren't tithing. So they weren't being obedient. Well, that make it awkward to preach something. I can tell you that, okay? It'd be quite awkward to preach something. I will not lead where I do not go. And I'm not going to tell you our whole story. You're tithing today because so many of you have already heard that. Before, but but Inger, Lisa, and I, we have never not tithed, not one paycheck knowingly in our lives. I'm not saying maybe I didn't forget one time, because I do forget stuff. But to our knowledge, we've just always done that. And God has blessed us so much. It doesn't mean we haven't had hard times. It doesn't mean there haven't been challenges, but God has been so good. I will not manipulate to get you to give. I won't do that. And how do people manipulate you? And here's what I'm going to. I'm going a little bit of a soapbox for just a minute here, okay? Because I think it's important. Have you ever heard of something called the prosperity gospel? I hate the prosperity gospel. There's a teaching out there. Maybe you've been going down the channels and you hit some TV preacher and he's looking at it and he says, "I got a word from the Lord right now. Put your hand on the TV. If you give $100 right now, God's going to return to you a hundredfold." Some of you, and they'll plead, and they'll put this pressure on, and I hate the prosperity gospel because I have had so many. I can think of 4 without even trying. 5 just now. So if I thought about it longer, I could think of even more, because they heard somebody preach like that, and then they gave more than they would have otherwise, and then they got in trouble financially, and now they're mad at God. And it's really, really hard, because all of those, it is true. The Bible does say that if you give more, he'll bless you. It says it all over the place. The problem comes that the moment that you give, financially, with the expectation that somehow you're strong-arming God into giving back to you financially, you have broken the whole process. And I think it becomes awful, because that's not how it works. If you give of your, are you ever going to pay back God? No, right? I was with a guy one time, and he came to me after church, and he says, "Oh, you could pray for for me, Pastor, because I'm laying it all on the line. I put $40,000 in the offering today. He had his own business. Put $40,000 in the offering today. I'm going to Canada and I got to make some sales. And I happened to a year and a half later, he's bankrupt. You cannot blackmail God into blessing you. It doesn't work that way. You can't throw yourself out there in such a way that you put God in a situation where, oh, you got him now. If God doesn't help me, I'm sunk. It doesn't work. And that's not what it means. And so this idea, and God is going to bless you when you give. He's going to bless you. And you're going to walk with peace and all of those things. But why do we give? It shouldn't be to get, because that doesn't work. Because the minute you try to manipulate God with your giving, in other words, and not with mind games, you can't play mind games with God, but God, you owe me now, right? I've been faithful in my tithes. Why does my car still break? I've been the minute you live there, it's broken. So that's how people manipulate. Another way people manipulate, there's a whole denomination out there. And if you figure out who it is, just don't even say that you know who it is. But if you give them money, it improves your chances of making it to heaven. And this little thing called the Reformation happened as a result of it, by the way. That's a hint. And they'll call you up. I know another denomination. I know another church that used to be in town, and this guy was Pentecostal, the same club that we are in. However, he had some really bad doctrine when it came to giving. He would come to people and he would say, you know what? The Lord told me that you're supposed to give me the inheritance that you just got. Now you would think that would never work. But it did. I was close to the situation. It was awful. And the guy was a crook, you know? He was prophesying over people to get them to give him money. And so another way of manipulating people do, they'll come out, and I've seen organizations do this. They'll come out with a cause that you want to give money to, and then you'll give money to that cause, and they will then take the money that you gave and use it for something else, because it was easier to get you to give them money for this than this over here. I've seen it happen many times. Preachers go out and I saw one ministry raise money for an RV 3 times. Three times they raised money for that RV. Saw another organization, they came out, and I was in a service, and they said, oh, you guys, you guys, we've got problem. We got the tax. We have to pay these taxes. And I don't know why their nonprofit got broke. I have no idea. But we got to pay all these taxes. And so let's do a faith offering tonight. And there was like, I don't know, maybe 100 people. In the room. They raised, it was either $5,000 or $7,000 out of that audience that night. And then a few months later, they sent out a newsletter. And in the newsletter, it said, would you please give? We've got this tax bill. Wait a minute. I'm like, I was in the service where we paid the whole thing. Right? Now, Scott, who didn't have that much money, he gave a lot. I was a teenager at the time, and other people gave a lot, and I'll never do that to you. I will never manipulate you to get you to give. My God is bigger than that. And it's actually not my job to Armstrong, to get you to give a little more until you're uncomfortable, because God's word just works. Now, but the third one, and I guess you've already read it, over my head here. I am not going to curse you by not talking about money. Can anybody tell me? You just yell it out. You probably know what I'm about to say next. I guess. But what subject did Jesus talk about more than any other subject? Money. Well, doesn't that seem kind of strange? Why? Now, Jesus, he's not concerned about money. I mean, he's God. Why would he be concerned about money? The reason Jesus talked about money more than anything else is because where your checkbook